According to Franz Montefiore, mobility is one of the foundation of our prosperity. Good day, everyone. My name is Margin T. Bolite, and today we'll be learning about the mobility training and assessment of movement competency. And without much further ado, let's proceed to our discussion.
Today, we will be talking about the mobility training and assessment of movement competency. But before we proceed to our discussion proper, let's first consider the objectives of the report. After this chapter, you should be able to first explain the synergy between core stability and mobility. Second is to identify limitations in mobility and flexibility when executing the fundamental movement patterns. And lastly, justify the need for an exercise routine consisting of warm up and cool down. I assume that everyone is ready, so let's start our discussion. Movement allows us to interact with our environment in different ways. It provides the foundation for our ability to perform fitness activities, work and athletic tasks, and basic activities of daily living. We develop our movement repertoire, starting with the general and fundamental movement patterns, and then progress to context, the specific, complex, and mature motor patterns. The variety of daily physical activities therefore necessarily requires a composite of movement abilities. So let's proceed to the discussion about the mobility. But first, what is mobility? This is the joint's ability to move well through its range of motion. And when we talk about the range of motion, it refers to the direction and the distance in which the joint can move. Each joint has specific function that can be generally classified either as providing stability or mobility. Thus, the following joints should be mobile: the ankle or the sagittal plane, the hip or the different planes, the thoracic spine or also known as the T-spine, and the shoulder. In contrast, the knee, lumbar spine, and the scapulae should be stable. Starting with the ankle and moving up the body, the joints alternate between mobility and stability. The inability of a joint to move well through its specific range of motion, or the ROM, shows lack of mobility. Should you be able to execute movement but lack enough control of it, then the body will decrease the joint's range of motion in an effort to control it. This is the essence of how stability affects mobility. Hence, it will be necessary to recognize the importance of training by movement pattern and addressing joint function or the dysfunction at the same time. The weak or poor activation of the hip abductors, adductors, hamstrings, and quadriceps muscles, as well as the gastrocnemius, causes the femur to adduct or internally rotate, which in turn leads to the knee collapsing medially or inward. This causes stress at the knee, resulting in knee pain. Poor knee mobility will also result in knee pain because the loading upon landing is transmitted to the knee above. On the other hand, poor thoracic spine mobility will result in cervical pain. In other words, problems at one joint usually show up as pain in the joint above or below. And now let's talk about the stability. When we talk about stability, it is the quality, state, or degree of being stable, such as the strength to stand or endure, and firmness. It is the property of the body that causes it, when disturbed from a condition of equilibrium or steady motion, to develop forces or moments that restore the original condition. At this moment, we will be talking about the functions of the joints. When we say the functions of the joints, this is the purpose of our joints in our body, and it can be classified as the two functions: the mobility or the stability. The first joint that we have in our body is the ankle. The function of the ankle is for our mobility. The knee is for the stability. The hip is for the mobility. The lumbar spine is for our stability. The thoracic spine is for the mobility. Scapula is for the stability. And our shoulder is for mobility. Mobility exercises can therefore help address restrictions, resulting in greater movement efficiency. The next table shows 3 sets of sample exercises that you can incorporate in your warm-up routine. Although these exercises are needed most by those who cannot do them well, anyone can benefit from them. Exercises that aim to improve ankle, hip, T-spine, and shoulder mobility are described in terms of the starting position and the mechanics of the movement. Note that there are also exercises that target a combination of joints such as the hip, T-spine, and shoulder. And here is the table of the sample exercises for warm-up. We have here 3 samples, the sample 1, sample 2, and sample 3. We have here in every samples the exercises and the set or the repetitions. As you all can see, we have here the different exercises, and after this, we will be having the one-by-one explanations and introductions of the exercises by the other reporters. And at this moment, let's proceed to the types of mobility.
Hello everyone, my name is Hamida Eskuli and I'm going to be discussing about the ankle mobility. So, what is ankle mobility?
Ankle mobility refers to the flexibility of the ankle joints and its surrounding muscles and tendons. It is important because flexibility of the ankle can determine the ability of how to perform an exercise. And in ankle mobility, there are 2 main types. It is the dorsiflexion, which is the ability to lift your toes toward your shins like you do when taking your foot off the gas pedal. And this is how it looks like. And dorsiflexion is a compound word from dorsal and flexion. Dorsal means the back or upper side of something, and in this case, it is the foot. And flexion, which refers to movement that decreases angle between 2 structures. The second one is the plantar flexion. The plantar flexion is the opposite of dorsiflexion. It is the ability to point your toes away from your leg like when pressing the brake pedal, and this is how it looks like. Plantar refers to the sole or the bottom of the foot. Next, we have the ankle mobility exercises. First one is the heel elevated ankle mobility. Starting position, stand with your heels placed on a slight incline 1 to 2 inches high. Procedure: slightly flex the knees so that the foot moves into a dorsiflex position and return to the starting position. Next, we have the 3-way ankle mobility. Starting position, start in a half kneeling position, keep one knee in front of the hip and in line with the heel. Procedure: rock the ankle back and forth so that the knee touches the wall, keep the heel in contact with the ground, move the knee forward slightly towards the midline, move the knee slightly away from the midline outward. Move the knee slowly and with control in each direction, making sure to reach a comfortable position. Repeat on the other leg. You may use a dowel when available by placing it beside the toes and moving the knee forward so that the knee is inside towards the midline or outside away from the midline. You can also use a stick or anything that functions like a dowel. You may also do this in a standing position with the feet few inches from the wall. Keep the rear knee extended as you move the front knee forward. Next, we have the leg swing. Starting position, stand in front of a wall, place hands on the wall at the shoulder level. Procedure: swing one leg side to side in a pendular motion. Keep the knee straight and the support foot in contact with the floor. Performing ankle mobility exercises results for better ankles, and better ankles have benefits. First one is it decreased injury risk. When a person improves his or her ankle mobility, it takes stress off other areas of the body, like the knees, hips, and lower back, hence decreasing injury risk. Second, It improves squat patterns. Squats are a primary movement pattern used daily by all humans, whether just standing up from your couch or running and jumping if you're active. Bad ankle mobility destroys the squatting pattern and can lead to problems. Third, it improves gait. During walking or running, the ankle joints have two key roles: dorsiflexion, which is pulling the toes up, and plantar flexion, which is pointing the toes down. If we can move better through the ankle, we can improve walking stride and running form. Fourth, better lateral movement. To move sideways quickly, you must be able to use adequate ground reaction force. This is achieved by keeping a solid base between the foot and the ground. But it is very difficult to do if you have low ankle mobility. And fifth, better motor control. There's a strong correlation between motor control, balance, and ankle mobility. The feet and ankles are crucial for effortless movement and to be able to maintain good form and posture from keeping us from tripping over. By adding ankle mobility moves into your stretching and mobility program, you'll see huge benefits down the road when you do your activities and even what you do day to day.
Hip mobility. Hip mobility refers to the range of motion of more than 15 muscles in your hip area. Hip mobility increases athletic performance and helps prevent lower back pain and injury, and also it boosts explosive movements. Quadruped hip circles. With the knees and hands on the floor, raise the left knee off the floor and rotate in an arc, attempting to make a big circle. Perform the movement slowly clockwise and counterclockwise for a number of repetitions. Repeat on the other leg. Standing hip circles. Support yourself on one leg and flex the opposite knee so that it is level with the hip. And then open the hip as far as possible, attempting to make a big circle with the knee. Perform the movement slowly clockwise and counterclockwise for a number of repetitions, and then repeat on the other leg. Leg lock hip bridge. Lie supine with one leg flexed at the hip, and hold the thigh to the chest for a passive lock. You may place a ball between the thigh and chest to cue on keeping the hip flexed during the execution of the exercise. And then extend the hip by bringing it off the ground into a bridge position. Keep the foot, knee, and thigh of the extended hip aligned. If the hamstring is cramping, you may raise the foot on a board or a platform to increase the hip flexion starting position. Pigeon stretch. Keep the front knee flexed and in line directly with the hip. The back leg extends behind and stays in line with the hip. And then, place the hands in front. Move the chest close to the front knee and hold the position for a few seconds. Lateral lunge. Stand tall with the arms on the waist. Take a step to the side and keep both feet facing forward and the soles in contact with the ground. And then, push off and go back to the starting position. Rotational squats. Stand with the feet at the right angles to each other. And then shift the weight to the back leg as you dorsiflex the lead foot. Keep the spine neutral. You might feel a bit of stretch in your groin. Reverse lunge with overhead reach. Stand tall with the arms hanging on both sides. And then step the right foot backward while lowering the hips so one knee bends to 90 degrees. Simultaneously raise the hands to the ceiling and reach back over the shoulders. And then, you may return to the starting position and repeat on the other leg.
Hello everyone, my name is Jan Gwyneth A. Prieto. So my part of the report is all about the thoracic spine mobility. What is thoracic spine mobility? The thoracic spine is capable of multiple movements in several planes. It can flex and round forward, extend, rotate, and laterally flex side bend. The primary movement of the thoracic spine is rotation. The first example of thoracic spine mobility is the mini crunch on tennis ball. Starting position. Tape two tennis balls together using duct tape and position these under the erector spinal muscles at the thoracolumbar junction. Rest your weight on them. Procedure. Do a series of mini crunches which press against the muscles. Rest the head on the floor after every crunch while the hands come forward at a 45-degree angle. After 5 reps, slide the body down so that the ball rests higher on the back until you reach the beginning of the cervical spine. Avoid placing the balls in the cervical and lumbar areas, since these do not need mobility work. Next is the quadruped T-spine rotation. Starting position. Start on a quadruped position with one hand behind the head. Procedure. Rotate the shoulder in the direction of the opposite knee, then rotate upward, keeping your gaze fixed on your wrist elbow. Keep the hips square to the ground. Lastly is the T-spine extension. Starting position. In a kneeling position, place your elbows on a bench while keeping the back flat. Procedure. Push the chest down, feeling a bit of stretch on your triceps and shoulders. You may also have a partner pressing between your scapulae. Hold this for a few seconds.
Good day, everyone. Princess Malayha Palaguyan speaking. And today, I will be talking about the hip and shoulder mobility. The hips and shoulders provide the most potential mobility in all 3 planes of movement, and they form a point of connection between the extremities and the torso. As a result, successful movement is only possible with sufficient mobility in these 2 joints. Now, we have here an exercise that will target both your shoulder and your hips, and it is called wall slides. For the starting position, first, sit with the back against the wall and soles of the feet together pulled towards the body. And then, hold the arms out to the side against the wall with elbows flexed to 90 degrees and the back of the hand flat or as close to the wall as possible. For its procedure, you must press the hands up towards the ceiling, sliding them up while trying to maintain contact with the wall. And then, press the knee towards the floor at the same time. Press as far as possible while keeping the hands against or as close to the wall as possible. Here, we have the finer look on how the wall slide exercise is done. That will be all for the hip and shoulder mobility. I thank everyone for listening. Bye!
Hip, shoulder, and T-spine mobility and some of example exercises. Plank T-roll. Starting position. Assume a straight arm plank position with feet hip width apart. Procedure. Rotate the shoulder and hip on one side. Slowly raise the right hand towards the ceiling and hold for a second. Return to the plank position and repeat on the other side. Spider-Man stretch. Starting position. Start on a straight arm plank position with feet hip width apart. Procedure. Bring one foot forward outside the hand resting on the floor. Touch the elbow on the inside of the foot. Keep the hips squared and the back flat. Keep the rear knee extended off the ground. Slowly rotate and reach towards the ceiling. Return on a straight position with the elbows touching the inside of the foot. Here are some of the important terms that we must remember. Mobility. It refers to the ability of the joint to move well through its specific range of motion, ROM. Mobile joints include the ankle, hips, thoracic spine, and the shoulder. Mobility is coupled with flexibility, which involves bilateral and unilateral action. Example, contraction, lengthening of opposing muscle groups to produce joint movement. Stability is related to mobility in terms of the integrated functioning of the muscles and connective tissues needed to maintain the integrity of the joint. Example, keep it in position. Compensation or compensatory action. Compensation or compensatory action occurs when a normal movement pattern cannot be fully performed because of a joint dysfunction and or muscle imbalances, which results to overloading of joints and subsequent muscle tightness or weakness. Quadra position. It is a base from which many exercises originate or start, such as the bird dog and T-spine rotation. From prone position, the body is supported by the knees and the hands. The knees are hip-width apart, while the wrists are directly under the shoulder. The spine and the head are kept in a neutral position or aligned. The ankles may be plantar or dorsiflexed. Thoracolumbar junction. It is the joint between the thoracic and the lumbar spine. Abductors. These are muscle groups that pull the body part toward the middle, such as the action of bringing the legs together, pushing the hips out, and squeezing the glutes. Example, lockout in the deadlift. They include the muscles around the groin and inner thigh, especially the abductors longus brevis and magnus. Abductors are muscle groups that work to spread the legs apart and rotate the legs at the hip joint. More importantly, they stabilize us when we are on a one-leg stance, such as during the walking movement. They include the glutes, medius and minimus, and tensor fascia latae.
Good day everyone, I am Sarah Susman and I will be discussing the movement competency assessment.
But before we discuss our main topic, let's know first what is movement competency. Movement competency is the ability to move free of dysfunction or pain. It is essential in physical activity. If movement competencies are not developed and nurtured from a young age, this can lead to inactivity and health and social problems. And now, let's talk about our main topic, the movement competency assessment. In movement competency assessment, usually the body's functional capacity is assessed through fitness tests, while its ability to move is left unassessed. However, restrictions in mobility and muscle imbalances impact in a body's efficiency. It is therefore important to distinguish dysfunctional from normal movement prior to participation in an exercise or conditioning program as well as during actual training. Assessing your movement competency will help you get to know your body, provide information that will help you track your progress, and maintain the gains or achievements that have been made.
Hi, my name is Rika Jane D. Isidro, and I am here to tackle about the functional core assessment. So what is functional core assessment?
Functional core assessment. This assessment consists of exercises that engage the core and which represent the fundamental movement patterns commonly found and regularly performed in activities of daily living, sports, and in fitness or performance training. They are essentially bodyweight movement tasks that include squatting, lunging, upper body pushing and pulling, trunk flexion, and rotation, which were adapted from M. Creet's 2012 Movement Competency Screen. Modifications include holding a dowel overhead during a squat for the purpose of assessing shoulder mobility that were adapted from Cook's Functional Movement Screen 1997, and supplementing the assessment with the planks as well as glute hip bridge.
Good day everyone, I am Charmy Salver Antalasco and I'm going to discuss about the plank, hip bridge, squat, and shoulder griddle. But before that, let me ask you these questions.
Is there any noticeable quivering when holding a plank position? Are you more stable on one side when performing the side plank? Are you feeling a strain on your hamstring when holding a hip bridge? Is there noticeable asymmetry, for example, strain on one leg? And now let us know what is a front plank. A front plank is an isometric core strength exercise that involves maintaining a position similar to a push-up for the maximum possible time. While the side plank is an excellent exercise for strengthening the oblique abdominal muscles, which don't get worked as much during AB exercises such as crunches. On the other hand, hip bridge is an exercise that involves lying on the ground on your back and thrusting your hips upwards. Now, let us know what is a squat. A squat involves two paces, downward or descent and upward or the ascent. During the descent, the hip and the knee joints flex until the top part of the thigh at the hip joint is lower than the knee joint. When viewed from the side, is the hip in line with the knee? During the ascent, the knee and the hip joints extend to return to the start position. The position of the head and direction of gaze also influence the amount of hip and trunk flexion. Looking down results to greater trunk flexion. Should you observe an increased trunk flexion? Note that this is a common compensatory action for poor hip mobility. On the other hand, looking up increases the lumbar curve. Thus, keep the head centered and spine neutral when squatting. Again, remember that looking down results to greater trunk flexion, which indicates poor hip mobility, while looking up increases the lumbar curve. For a squat to be executed competently, each of the major joints such as ankle, knee hip, lumbar, and the T-spine must perform their respective function in terms of the mobility and stability. Do you notice a rounding off at the lumbar spine at the bottom of the movement, or an extension of thoracic spine? As you can see and observe in the picture, the lumbar spine is rounded and the T-spine is extended. The knee is stability joint and must maintain its alignment to the hips and feet. It is perfectly aligned when its load-bearing axis runs down the middle of the leg through the hip, knee, and ankle. An indication or poor hip stability and improper function of the rectus femoris, hamstrings, and hip abductor and adductor muscles is movement of the knee outward or varus, as in a bow leg, malalignment and valgus or movement of the knees inward, as in a knock-kneed malalignment. As you can observe in the picture, the first one is a bow leg or knees outward, while the second one is the knock-kneed or knees inward. An extreme anterior motion of the knees where the knees move past the toes and in some cases, where the heels are lifted off the ground is strongly discouraged. This causes stress at the knee through increased shear or resistant to sliding and comprehensive or push-together forces. That's why we should avoid knees going past the toes and avoid lifting heels off the ground. Also, we should avoid a deep squat pattern wherein the hamstrings touch the calves at the bottom of the movement. This makes the knee anterior cruciate ligament or ACL susceptible to injury unless the descent is controlled and good knee alignment is maintained. And now we should know about the shoulder girdle. The shoulder girdle includes the clavicle or the collarbone, scapulae or the shoulder blades, and humerus or the upper arm, along with the acromioclavicular joint which connects the clavicle and scapula, and the glenohumeral or the shoulder joint that permits a wide range of movement. Its mobility, however, makes the joint relatively unstable. Thus, the shoulder joint needs a base to work from. That's its scapular stability. This can be achieved by squeezing the shoulder blades tight or the scapular retraction and keeping them together before you pull. For example, rowing and pull up. A dual-held overhead assesses the mobility of the shoulder and the thoracic spine. Thus, when the shoulder asymmetry is observed, aim to improve scapular stability and T-spine mobility. For scapular mobility, you can do wall slide and scapular protractions and retractions while in a straight arm plank position or shoulder rotations. For example, hold both ends of a band or towel overhead with elbows fully extended and then bring them behind the head down to the level of your hip. As you can see and observe in the video, it is the shoulder girdle.
Greetings everyone, I am Angeline Ripolidon and I'll be reporting about the lunge and twist and how to perform it properly. So what is lunge and twist? It is also referred to as lunge with twist. Is a lunge exercise in which you twist your midsection to the left or right while in the lunge position. Resume the standing position and repeat, twisting in the opposite direction. The forward lunge demonstrates lumbar spine and trunk stability and hip and ankle mobility that support knee stability. The ideal position of the trunk during the lunge is similar to that of the squat. Thus, the spine should be kept neutral and the hip stable. To perform it properly, we must stand tall with feet hip width apart. Place hand on your chest and take a controlled step forward with your right leg. Second, keep your spine tall. Lower your body until your front leg and back leg form a 90-degree angle. Third, pause, then bring your right leg home to start. Now do the other side by stepping forward with your left leg. Here's a short video clip showing how to perform it correctly. The lead knee collapsing medially and movement of the knee in front of the toes upon descent during a lunge is an indication of weak or poor activation of the hip abductors, adductors, hamstrings, and rectus femoris muscles as well as the gastrocnemius. In a lunge stance, one hip is extended while the other hip is flexed. The rotation is initiated through the T-spine. With the rotation in the direction of the flexed hip or lead knee, good thoracic mobility is evident with the left elbow rotates well past the left knee. During trunk rotation, the lumbar spine rotates to a certain degree, approximately 13 degrees compared to the T-spine's more than 30 degrees rotation, but rotation beyond its mechanical capacity must be avoided. Keeping the lumbar spine stiff and rigid therefore facilitates and rotational movements such as throwing, striking, kicking, sprinting, and changes in direction.
This is a great exercise for your quads, glutes and hamstrings. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart and arms stretched forward. Take a big step forward with your left leg, and lower your body until your thigh is parallel to the ground. Twist your upper body to the left, and then twist back. Return to the starting position, switch side and repeat. Keep your knees facing forward as you twist. Keep your back straight.
Upper body push and pull. Upper body push and pull involves the standard push-up and body weight bend and pull. Push-up. The foundation of push-up is plank. The lumbar spine must be in a neutral position, the head centered and stable. The lower limb must be aligned to the entire trunk and the head. During the movement of the upper body, the lumbar spine must be stabilized through bracing so as to keep the stomach from sagging or hips rising towards the ceiling. The shoulder must be held down and away from the ears by controlling the scapula. The rhomboids help pull the scapula toward the spine and are part of the superficial muscle of the back that includes the trapezius, latissimus dorsi, and levator scapulae. These muscle groups function to connect our arms to the trunk. They also contribute to good posture. Hence, weakness of this muscle group leads to scapular retraction, which is one of the causes of poor upper body posture. It also leads to pain in the upper back, especially in the medial border of the scapulae. When the shoulders are observed to elevate toward the ears during the push-up, the alignment of the humerus within the glenoid joint is compromised. The reason why this happens is because the upper trapezius may be overdeveloped compared to the middle and lower trapezius. Thus, it is overly recruited. Such malalignment limits the joint's ROM, such as raising the arms above the shoulder height. This particular dysfunction leads to poor shoulder mechanics that in turn makes the soft tissues in the shoulder region susceptible to injury and pain.
Extend both of your legs so you're resting on your toes. Engage your core and make sure you're not arching your back. Your body should be in a straight line from your head to your heels, which will make your push-ups more effective. When you're ready, lower down to the floor, keeping your elbows in toward ribcage. Now, push down into your hands to raise yourself back up to the starting position. Do as many push-ups as you can while still maintaining good form.
The next one is bend and pull. Starts with the arm overhead. As the trunk flexes, the arm drops under the trunk. The spine's neutral position must be maintained while the knee slightly flexes to move back to the center of gravity. This keeps the natural lumbar curve and allow the hips muscle to load properly. Pull the arm towards the stomach, keeping the shoulder down and away from the ears. In contrast, a poor bend pattern is characterized by the trunk not achieving at least the knees are locked, thereby prohibiting the hips from being actively involved in stabilizing the lumbar spine, and there is marked bending through the lumbar spine. Next is single leg squat. This task involves the movement of the ankle, knee, and hips, thereby assessing muscular strength, the ability to control the alignment of the lower limb, and proprioception. It is considered a rehabilitation exercise because it challenges the strength of the glute. It is considered a rehabilitation exercise because it simultaneously challenges the strength of the gluteal, hip abduction, hip adduction, quadriceps, and hamstring muscle groups, which results in enhanced knee stability. In the starting position, the T-spine is slightly extended, demonstrating mobility, while the lumbar spine is kept neutral. The hip should be observed moving back and down as the trunk flexes forward from the hip. The knee should stay aligned with the foot and hip during hip and knee flexion and extension, and should not move excessively forward going past the toes. The foot of the support leg remains in contact with the ground during the squat and not appear to pronate, supinate, and plantar flex. Plantar flexion or lifting the heels off the floor during descent may be indicator of poor flexibility in the calf muscle. A controlled, fluid single leg squat to at least 75 degrees of hip flexion is a good indicator of relative body strength and ROM. Before we end our discussion about upper body push and pull, here are some important terms you must know. The proprioception refers to the sense of awareness, whether conscious or unconscious of the body in space, the position of the joint, and movement of the limbs. The rehabilitation exercise is a strategy or proactive approach to improve one's current capacity by increasing physical activity or engaging in specific exercises to mitigate the risk of injuries inherent in physical activities. Shoulder girdle is comprised of clavicle or collarbone, scapulae or shoulder blades, and the humerus or upper arm, along with the acromioclavicular or AC joint, which connect the clavicle and scapula, and the glenohumeral or shoulder joint. The T-spine or the thoracic spine is the region of the spine that is mobile and specifically influences the joints below or above it in terms of their degree of stability. The varus refers to the movement of the knee outward as in a bow leg malalignment. And lastly, the valgus, which refers to the movement of the inward as in knock-kneed malalignment.
What you do before your workout affects what you're able to do during your workout. Preparing for workout by carrying some routine exercises is therefore important.
Warm up. What is warm up? It refers to preparatory exercises performed prior to engaging in more vigorous activities. Warming up is a part of stretching in preparation for physical exertion or a performance by exercising or practicing gently beforehand, usually undertaken before a performance or practice. Warming up increases your heart rate and therefore your blood flow, which enables more oxygen to reach your muscles. There are three types of warm up: the passive, general, and specific. Passive warm-up: increase temperature by external means, such as sauna and hot bath. General warm-up: a gradual increase in intensity in physical activity, such as walking, jogging, and aerobics. Specific warm-up: increase temperature using similar biomechanics that are to be used in subsequent, more strenuous activity, for example, swimming and cycling. Whatever type of warm-up is selected, the overall purpose of warm-up remains the same: to prepare the body for the greater demands of the upcoming activity. Warm-up is suggested to last up to 10 minutes at a low to moderate intensity. Ensure that the body is not fatigued from the warm-up even before the activity begins by keeping the warm-up to a moderate duration and intensity level.
Good day everyone, I am Rayan M. Ismani and I am going to report about the effects of specific warm-up before a game. But first, why do we need to do warm-up exercises before a game? So as we all know, warm-up exercises prepares us physically, which is the main reason why do we need to do it before engaging ourselves into a game. So, here are the benefits and effects of warm-up exercises. The first one is increase heart and respiratory rates. So warm-up exercises increases heart and respiratory rates in a way that it results in better blood circulation in the body. The next one is increase in muscle temperature, which causes more forceful contraction and quicker relaxation. The third one, increase in body temperature. So increasing body temperature helps in facilitating the unloading of more oxygen to the working muscles in our body. Next is increased joint mobility, which helps in preventing injuries. And last but not the least, it increases our mental readiness to play in a game. When we are choosing or when we are designing warm-up exercises routine, we should consider the following questions in able to be more aware on how we can improve our performance in a game. So here are the following questions. The first one is, what exercises are planned in the upcoming workout? What joints and muscles will be involved? What is the overall level of mobility required to perform the exercise? What planes of motions will be involved? what speed of motion will be involved? Are there any specific mobility restriction or exercise contradictions? So, to answer that questions, here are the following general recommendations for a dynamic warm-up routine. The first one is, start with general movements that mobilize joints. So, you should consider the joints that will be used in the upcoming workout or need consistent work, such as ankle, hip, and thoracic spine. You should select additional mobility drills based on individual needs, and all movements should be performed slowly and within a comfortable range of motion. So the next one is, movement preparation should progress from general exercise to ones that are more specific. Each movement preparation exercise is performed for approximately 20 to 25 yards or 5 to 10 repetitions. Over a period of several weeks, gradually increase the speed and range of the exercises to make them more dynamic, as this will allow your neuromuscular system to slowly but progressively adapt to the movements. So, the result will be significant functional increases your mobility. And lastly, progress to specific warm-up that meet the physical and psychological demands of the upcoming workout or activity.
Good day everyone, I'm Jubraida M. Abdul Kadir, and the next topic that we will discuss is the cool down and flexibility training. Cool down and flexibility training. What is flexibility? Flexibility is the ability of a joint or series of joints to move through an unrestricted, pain-free range of motion. It involves the bilateral or unilateral actions like contractions and lengthening of opposing muscle groups to produce joint movement. Stretching. It is a process of placing particular parts of the body into a position that will lengthen or elongate the muscles and associated soft tissues. Static stretching. Muscles or group of muscles are not moving around at all, but are simply elongated. Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation or PNF is another form of stretching that combines static stretch and isometric stretching for the purpose of enhancing flexibility. It has been proven to enhance active and passive ROM. Dr. Herman Kabat. He started as a basic science researcher before becoming a clinical neurologist in 1930s. He developed the PNF in 1940s with Margaret Knott, a physical therapist, for the treatment of neuromuscular disease such as polio. Contract, relax, stretch. One of the PNF technique which involves holding stretch position for a few seconds, then pushing gently against the stretch position or isometric hold without moving, followed by relaxing the stretch. A much deeper stretch is achieved in a second stretch. A variation of this hold-relax technique involves slow movement during the isometric hold phase, although here the muscle is contracted while moving. Hamstring stretch. Your partner provides resistance as you contract the muscle and you push your leg down the floor.
Hello everyone, I am Babes Jane Kalakar and I am going to talk about self-myofascial release. We're going to keep it as simple as possible and go through everything step by step to avoid bombarding you with huge chunks of information.
Self-myofascial release.
A self-myofascial release is a self-massage technique performed by an individual who is experiencing muscle tightness or pain as a result of exercise. DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness, is the muscle soreness that self-myofascial release usually used to treat. It can last up to a couple of days. This is the pain that an individual experiences in the days after the exercise. Self-myofascial release techniques involve the use of tools, most commonly foam rollers, to massage the muscles and the fascia around them that have been affected by pain and tightness. Benefits of self-myofascial release. Self-myofascial release, or SMR, releases trigger points, increases blood flow to muscles and fascia, improves mobility and flexibility, and lastly, it decreases the risk of DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness. Techniques of self-myofascial release. The first technique of SMR is the thoracic extension mobility. When performing thoracic extension mobility, keep the foam roller at the shoulder blade level. Keeping your body neutral and straight, gently roll back and forth to release tensions in your thoracic spine. Take care not to roll below the rib cage into the lower back. The second technique of SMR is the foam rolling adductors. In doing this, hold your upper body up on your forearms as if you were performing a plank with your lower body in contact with the floor. Place the foam roller under one of your legs by bending your knee and extending your leg out to the side. Slowly roll back up and forth, covering the inner thigh until you find the most tender spot. The third one is the foam rolling glutes. Sit on a foam roller with your right leg crossed on top of your left leg. Shift your weight so that only your right glute is in contact with the foam roller. Begin rolling on the outside portion of the glutes. From there, you can move upward and toward your midline in order to foam roll the piriformis. The fourth technique is the foam rolling IT band. Using your arms, lift your body onto the foam roller in a side-lying position. Keeping your bottom leg straight and top knee bent, move your body in a back and forth motion. This will allow the roller to stretch the outside of your bottom leg from your hip to your knee. The last one is the foam rolling thoracic extension. In doing foam rolling thoracic extension, keep your knees bent and feet flat on the ground. Place your hands behind your head and pull your elbows as close together as they'll go. Let your head fall to the floor and try to wrap yourself around the foam roller, extending the thoracic spine over the roller.